Perfect.
Perfect in the bull.
Dead in the bullseye?
Yeah,
I
it's
think
a
it'll work.
bullseye. Perfect.
What do you reckon, John?
I think it's on.
I think it's on.
Spend enough time hunting and you're likely to consider going on an international hunt. And if you hunt internationally, you're going to need to decide whether you take your own rifle or you rent a camp rifle from your outfitter when you get to your ultimate destination. Now, all the outfitters that I've ever worked with had great camp rifles, but I always travel with my own rifle for many reasons, and I found that with a little bit of pre-work, it's really not that big of a hassle to travel with your own rifle. So in this video, we're going to break down what you need to know and a couple little things that could trip you up during the process to travel to 3 very popular hunting destinations with your own rifle: South Africa, New Zealand, and Argentina. So before we get started, anytime you leave the United States, you're going to need this form, which is the U.S. Customs Form 4457. We talk about it in our other video, flying with rifles within the United States and to Canada. But to get back into the United States, you're going to need this piece of paper, and you're also going to need it during the permitting process for all 3 locations that we look at here today. So let's take a look at one of my favorite places to hunt, and that's South Africa. And South Africa has so many hunters traveling there to hunt that it's fairly easy and one of the simplest places, I believe, to take a rifle and go on a hunt. So let's break down what you need to know. The first thing is getting to South Africa. You're going to want to fly into Johannesburg if you have a rifle, because that's the main location for permits and clearing a rifle. And so current guidance is you need to fly to Johannesburg. Now, the other thing you need to know is that there are certain locations within around the world that you cannot connect through with a rifle. So British Airways and Heathrow in London is one of those airports that you just cannot fly through. Even if you're just connecting, you cannot go through. So currently, Air France through Paris, you can connect. You can fly through with Emirates and fly through, connecting through Dubai is the kind of the typical route, or any of the US carriers. A lot of them have direct routes straight from the United States into Johannesburg. But again, just be careful. There are airports like Heathrow that you cannot even just connect through. So getting there, make sure that it's okay for the airline, and then fly into Johannesburg to clear your rifle. The next thing is permitting. So with permitting in South Africa, you need to fill out a SAPS 520. Now, I highly recommend that you reach out to a meet and greet service like we use Africa Sky for our permitting. They have all the paperwork, and for a small fee, they'll pull your permit. You send them all the information. They've got a big package that they'll send you via email. Once you put together all the materials, you typically need to get it in their hands no later than 30 working days from your arrival date. And then they'll go ahead, get your permit. They'll meet you in the Johannesburg airport. After you collect your baggage, you're going to come out of the secure area, and then someone will be there to meet you with a sign. They'll take you to the police station within the airport. They'll have your permit. The agent there will check the serial number on your rifle, the number of rounds of ammunition that you have, which will be on your permit as well. And they'll sign it, and off you go. The only thing you need to remember is that you need to keep your copy of the permit with the rifle at all times while you're in South Africa. Suppressors. So suppressors, much like the United States, are legal within South Africa. We've hunted with suppressors that we've brought from the United States. So perfectly legal at the time we made this video to hunt with suppressors. And really the only thing, best practice, is to bring a copy of your suppressor paperwork from the United States just to make sure you don't have an issue coming back into the United States. Now, typically, when you arrive in Johannesburg, you'll typically overnight. Now, if your outfitter is going to pick you up and drive you into camp from Johannesburg, then you're done. Just keep your copy of your paperwork and you're good. If you're flying to another destination within South Africa, you're going to want to fly Airlink. They're the one airline within South Africa that will handle rifles. And really the major things you need to know with Airlink is that you need to notify the airline 72 hours prior to departure that you're going to be traveling with firearms so that they can have an extra person at the gate so that they can hand carry your firearm case and your ammo case out to the plane. There's a email, customer service email address that you can provide notification. It's very easy to do, but you just need to remember that 72 hours prior to flying on Airlink that you need to provide notification. Now, the next thing that can trip you up in South Africa is that flying from the United States into South Africa, you can have your ammunition in your soft-sided duffel bag or your luggage that you check separate from your rifle. But once you fly domestically, you're going to need to put all your ammunition in a lockable hard-sided case like I have here. So I carry this in our duffel bag that we fly over to Johannesburg in, and then the next day I move all my ammunition into the hard-sided case. And then you need to have non-TSA locks, so locks that only you have the key, and to be able to lock the case. And what they're going to do is they're going to hand carry this case and your hard-sided case out to the airplane. And then when you land in, say, Uppington or any of the other airports within South Africa, you're going to just do the same thing. You're going to collect your bags, you're going to come outside of security, you're going to go over to the police office in that airport, and you're going to claim your ammunition and your rifle, and they'll want to see your permit that you obtained in Johannesburg. So very simple to do. And two other things that can trip you up, and this applies to really all three locations, but in your carry-on, you cannot have any tools. So when you fly on Airlink, this is a fat wrench. It's just a torque wrench that I bring in case I have, a loose mount or any issues with my scope mount. But I did get stopped and had to check my bag. So because this fat wrench was in my carry-on, never had an issue in the United States. It's just a torque wrench. But specifically, tools are not allowed on your carry-on luggage. So if you do bring this, just make sure it's in your checked baggage in your duffel bag and not in your carry-on. The next thing is I ran into in New Zealand, and I've just done it everywhere now because you just never know who's going to stop you at security, but you cannot have loose batteries. So if I used to carry my AA batteries in a Ziploc bag, my spares, and so now everything needs to be in the original manufacturer's case, and what they're worried about is just the batteries coming in contact and creating a fire. So when you carry your spare batteries, just make sure that it's in the original packaging. And I've got these 4 packs of AA's that I carry, and I have been okay if they're if one of these batteries was out and you had the other battery still in the package, that seemed to be okay. But just to be on the safe side, I would always travel with batteries in the original packaging. So really that's it for South Africa. I think it's just, it's one of the easiest locations to get in and out with a rifle, and you can fly out of other airports than Johannesburg. A lot of times we'll fly out of Cape Town. So leaving the country is not a problem because you've already got your permit. Okay, so now we're getting a little more difficult, but still relatively easy. New Zealand. So the couple things to know about New Zealand is getting there is very easy. It's a long flight, but you don't typically have the issues because you're going to be flying direct from the United States into New Zealand. So you don't have, I've never seen any issues with connecting flights because they're typically direct. So you don't have to worry about the Heathrow issue. And New Zealand suppressors are okay. So you can bring your suppressor. Again, best practice, just make sure you have your paperwork from the United States when you come back in the United States. The permitting process for New Zealand, however, is a little bit more cumbersome than, say, South Africa. So the big thing to know about permitting in New Zealand is that today, you need to have your permit application in 4 months prior to arriving in New Zealand. So it'll sneak up on you real quick because you typically go to New Zealand in kind of March, April, May timeframe. So you need to have that 4 months circled on your calendar. And what you'll do is you'll go to the New Zealand police website, and you create an account, and once you've created an account there, you just have to take a hunter safety test. It's actually a theory test. You take the test, you provide all the standard paperwork, copies of your passport, and the serial number of your rifle, and the ammo that you're going to bring, all the kind of things you normally do. However, they are going to ask as part of that for your firearms license. Well, here in the United States, not required to have a firearms license. But what I have found with New Zealand is that by providing the customs form 4457, that has all its official document, it has your serial number, and to the New Zealand police, it kind of signifies that you are permitted to have a firearm within the United States. So I provided this as my firearms license, didn't have an issue. You will need some outfitter information. They typically, you can contact your outfitter. A lot of times it's on their FAQs for the website, but there's some information that you will need for the application that's specific to your outfitter. And other than that, it's, there's not a lot to it. Once you have your permit, it's a very similar process. You're going to land probably in Auckland or one of the other airports, and you collect all your baggage, and then you're going to go to the police department office. They're going to have your rifle. They're going to ask for your permit information. You're going to give that. They're going to check the serial number and the make and the model of the rifle and the ammunition. They're going to issue you a permit, and same thing. Just keep the permit with the rifle at all times while you're inside New Zealand, and that's really it. So the big thing about New Zealand is just the firearms license question, know how to handle that, and you got to be out 4 months before you land. Otherwise, it's typically not going to get approved. So don't wait till the last minute. Okay, the last country is Argentina, and Argentina is, I think, somewhat similar to South Africa in that getting the permit is fairly easy the first time that you go to Argentina, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But your outfitter, if you're flying through Buenos Aires, can help get your rifle permit for you. they'll get asked for some information, and they will have it when you land in Argentina. So similar process, get all your luggage. You will typically have a meet and greet service in Argentina, and they're gonna you're gonna meet up with them in the police station. So you need to ask when you are leaving the secure area, and there's typically a customs agent there or a police officer, but if you just ask them where they take the rifles to, they will direct you, and that's where I met our meet and greet agent, was in the office, and then they being the airline, will bring your hard-sided case to the police, and then they'll check your permit, and they'll check the rifle, and they're also going to check the ammo. And here's where it kind of gets, there's just a lot of moving pieces to it. There's a lot of people that have to see the permit and sign a book, and so it takes a while. And then within New Zealand, or within Argentina, if you're flying domestically, you're going to have to go to a completely separate airport from the international terminal if you fly in from the United States. And when you get to the domestic terminal, you're going to have to go through the whole process again with the police verifying everything and checking you in when you fly domestically. So the guidance that we received was you need 4.5 to 5 hours between your landing in Buenos Aires and your next domestic flight. We actually overnighted in Buenos Aires just to make sure that we got everything, and it was very easy. Then the next morning when we got up, we went to the domestic airport, and we had to do the whole thing again. That took quite a bit of time. So I'd allow 2 to 3 hours to check in, because you're going to have to not only check your rifle case, but you're going to have your ammo in a hard-sided case, just like South Africa, to fly domestically. And they're very sensitive to you have to have locks on everything on your rifle case, which you would normally do, but then also the hard-sided case that you have for your ammunition. Again, non-TSA locks, so just regular locks that you just have the key to. And it is this case is vital because of the fact that there was actually someone from Argentina on our flight, and there was some issue with the way that their ammo was being transported, and they actually had to get off the plane. So it's really not a big deal. I always carry this, even if I don't think I need it, I'll have it in my duffel bag, and it saved me in Argentina because no one had told me that I needed to put my ammo in the hard-sided case, but I had it, we pulled it out, never had an issue. So Argentina, fairly simple process, but complicated in the airport because there's so many people that have to check your permit and check everything that it can take a little bit of time. They recently made suppressors legal for Argentinians inside Argentina, but as of time of filming, the suppressors are not allowed for Americans to bring in to hunt with. So I would leave your suppressor at home when you go to Argentina. Now, here's the other thing that'll not really chip you up, but something to think about. So everything I just said for permitting was for your first trip to Argentina, and whether it's a rifle or shotgun. Your second and any subsequent trip to Argentina, you need to obtain all your permitting through the U.S. consulate. So that's the Argentina U.S. consulate. It's actually pretty easy. You need to get a couple things notarized, but other than that, you just put all your information together, you send it off to the consulate, and then they'll issue you your permit. Now, the only thing that you need to check is on the website is that you get the correct consulate for your area, because there's multiple consulates in the United States, but you just need to make sure that you're sending your information to the one that handles the state that you live in. So that's about it. Just be mindful of the couple of things that we talked about in here that would trip you up. Always carry a hard-sided case for your ammo because you never know. And don't carry loose batteries and you should be good. If you enjoyed this video, give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll continue to bring informational videos like this to you. Until next time, good hunting.